What's your name and what do you do?
I'm Garret Braddy, and I'm a barber.
Where are you from originally, Garret?
I'm from Marion, Ohio, born and raised.
So tell us a little bit about your childhood and how you were raised.
For the most part, it was good and bad. The good part is I had a loving mother. Bad part is we had a stepfather that was addicted to drugs, crack cocaine, and there'd be times where we would come home, there'd be holes on the wall, all of our stuff taken, and we'd get evicted from that. And growing up being biracial, my mother's side of the family, they were from Southern Ohio, like Portsmouth, Lucasville, and stuff like that. So they weren't too fond of the interracial dating, and definitely not fond of my mom having biracial children. So when those things would happen with my stepfather, me and my siblings, which there's 5 of us, and my older brother, he was old enough that he would be able to go and do his own thing. My second oldest brother, he didn't live with us because my father and my oldest brother's father would abuse my mother, and Children's Services did step in and take him and gave him to his dad. And so it was mainly the 3 of us, which was my sister, me, and my little brother. And out of the 3 of us, there's 2 of us that are biracial. Me and my sister are biracial. My little brother is fully white. So with us being biracial, we felt like, we were too black for my white side of the family. And my father was never really in the picture. So there was times we really felt like we were too white for my black side of the family. So my brother, my littlest brother, he would always be able to be taken by my mom's side of the family or even his dad's side of the family. So me and my sister were we were with my mother for most of the part of that. So that was a really rough time in us, but that's brought me and my sister close. Like out of all of us, we were the closest out of all my siblings and stuff like that. Not to say we ain't close, but we're just the closest and stuff.
So how's that relationship with your mother and father now?
Mother, still, that's my mom, you know what I mean? Father, not so much, he's still, and crazy thing about it is we live in the same town, and I barely talk to him and stuff like that. He does his own thing, and I'm a grown man now, so it just doesn't really affect me that much either anyway, so.
How do you think that affected you as a kid with him not being around?
Affected me big time because I always wanted a father figure. Over the years of my stepfather's addiction, it got better, but we were still not the same. I was into sports or, like rap and stuff like that. And he's, my stepfather was a white guy. So he was a roofer, not to say I don't like variety of music. I love variety of music, but just as a kid, we didn't like that. So he was off doing his own thing. Like he would only be home on the weekends. He traveled doing that. So when he was home on the weekends, he would be off doing his own thing or whatever. So we didn't, I didn't have that father figure. So as a kid, that affected me big time because that's what I was wanting. I just, even to this day, there's times where I still want that father figure. Like I want a relationship with my father, but I just, like I said, if it happens, it happens. If it don't, it don't, so.
All right. So how's your life going now? You got a family?
I do. I have a fiance. I've been with her for 13 years. I have 4 kids, 14, 11, 5, and 2. The 2 oldest ones I had in high school. I had my daughter my sophomore year, and then had my son, end of sophomore going into junior, and then my son I had my senior year.
And I understand that you have a big role in their lives, unlike your father had in yours.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, call it cliche or whatever, but I mean, it pushed me to be, a better father. I always, said if I ever had kids, which is funny because I wasn't supposed to be able to have kids. But, I always told myself when I have kids, I will be a better man and better father to my kids than my dad was to me.
That's awesome. What made you want to be a barber?
What always made me want to be a barber was that I always cut hair. I started cutting hair when I was about 13, and I liked it. But what really started turning the wheels was when I got to high school. There was this kid that I played sports with, and he would always have a cut, but he wouldn't have a fresh lineup. So, one day I'm like, man, where do you get your hair cut? And he's like, some lady at my church cuts my hair. So I was like, hey, I can do a better job than that. How much she paying you? And she was like, $5. I was like, I'll take that $5. Give me a shot. And he gave me a shot, and I gave him a crispy cut, and everybody at the school was like, man, who cut you, man? That's fresh. So that's when it really started to be interesting to me. But having kids at a young age and knowing that I wanted to do better than my father, I didn't jump right into barbering. I dib and dabbed in factory, the food business and stuff like that. But like I said, what made me truly want to be a barber was the feeling that I get to see other people's faces when I do give them a clean cut. Like they might be having a bad day and, come in, get cut. And then after, it's like, wow, feeling like $1 million. And that was my joy of wanting to be a barber. So.
How long have you been cutting hair total?
Like I said, I've been cutting since I was 13, but professionally I'm going on 9 years.
So you've been doing it for a little while now.
Yeah.
So growing up and even now, what are some struggles that you had to go through in life that the average person might not know about you?
So when I was about 9, 10 years old, I was diagnosed with leukemia. As a kid, I would have pains in my bones, mainly my legs, and my mother would take me to the doctors, and they would always tell her it was growing pains. And one day I just woke up and it felt like I was being suffocated, like drowning, and I couldn't catch my breath. And I'm running downstairs, and I'm just jumping up in front of my mom, like, I can't get, she notices that I can't get no air. I'm not breathing. So she grabs me and she rushes me to the front door. And as soon as she opens the door, that gush of wind that hit me brought my air to. So she called the ambulance, and her and my oldest brother actually rode out to the hospital with me. And while they were sitting there, the doctors come in and was like, hey, we got to run some tests on him. And while I was gone, from what I've been told through my mom and my brother, was my mom had a funny feeling that it was cancer. She just had a funny feeling. She's telling him, like, I'm hoping that it's not cancer and praying to God that it wasn't cancer. And sure enough, when they brought me back, they tell my mother, like, hey, we got some bad news. It is leukemia. We're going to have to rush him down to Children's. So they rushed me down to Children's and immediately put me in surgery to insert a Broviac line, which it was connected to my main artery that pumps from your heart, the blood from your heart through your body. So they hooked it into that, and that was what fed the medicine to my body and stuff like that. So so my mom actually had probably one of the toughest decisions, because they were wanting to do a variety of tests and try new things, and she's just like, no, I'm not really feeling none of that. And they were like, well, what about a bone marrow transplant? And at the time, not knowing what would take to go through that process, she's like, no, I don't even really know what that is and what would the process be. And so she's like, let's just try the radiation, chemo, and see what it goes from there. And we started that, and obviously I lost all my hair, lost a bunch of weight. There was times where I couldn't hold food down. It was a very scary moment, especially being 9 and 10 years old. There was times where, the medicine was so gross. And I tell you, as a kid, the scariest moment, not to say that she would have done that, but there was times where she just didn't want to see me go through that and not want to take my medicine and kind of giving up. And she was like, you know, I'm not going to watch you die. So if anything, I'll leave if that's what you're going to do, if you're going to give up. And as a kid, no kid wants to hear their mom want to leave. So, you know, that I took it instantly, you know, and she stuck by my side. She stuck by my side every day of the every day. She never left. We were down there probably, I want to say anywhere from like, I want to say 7 to 9 months straight, not coming home, just being down in Columbus. And, you know, I've spent, you know, Christmases down there, and it was a crazy experience. I met new friends though. I did meet new friends, and what I do realize today that was probably a good call on my mother was some of those people that I met that became good friends, they ended up taking bone marrow transplants, and they would either relapse and the cancer would come back, or they're just not here anymore. And I mean, I've been in remission for 20 some years now, so that's a blessing. So that's probably one of the biggest struggles that I've had in life. And even like what I deal with today, it can be the common cold, and I'm nervous, you know, because again, once you experience that, there is trauma. I don't care how old you get, there's always some trauma.
So being 9 or 10 years old when they initially told you that you had leukemia, did you understand what that was at the time?
No, not at all. Like I said, I seen the scare on my mother's face, and I knew then it was serious, but no, I didn't know what it was.
At what age did you realize what you had and what you had survived through?
Well, it was, I mean, I was 10. So after a while, it started to, you know, come to me what I had, and then being around other cancer patients and being in the hospital 24/7, you tend to grasp like what's going on, like, okay, this is what this is. But I mean, it took a few years for me to understand the process of getting better. Like I was out of school for a while. When I did go back to school, they wanted to put me in I had to wear a mask. I feel like I was wearing a mask before the COVID thing hit.
Kind of treating you like you were contagious or something.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say contagious. I would
your
say,
immune system?
yeah, it was protecting my own immune system
Yeah.
from the schools, and we lived right beside train tracks.
Right.
So the dust and all the dirt that came off of that, they definitely wanted to keep me, you know, safe.
So go ahead and walk us through a normal day of treatment that you would have to go through.
Normal day of treatment, honestly, which again, I mean, I never did anything normal. So in the beginning, when I was getting used to it, they would come in, give me an IV, tell me, hey, we rather you just stay in the bed, you know, get used to it, because this stuff, like if you were to bump it and knock it over, it can like burn through stuff. From my knowledge, that's what I, you know,
The
was
chemo?
told. Yeah, the radiation. And
How
stuff
did that
like
feel when you got that through the IV?
I didn't feel it really. It was like hours or days later that the sickness would come through, and again, throwing up and just weak. I mean, just drained, like you just slept. And even like days and maybe a week of having it, sometimes I would get blisters in my mouth from it, and I couldn't eat. I wouldn't be able to eat because my mouth was so sore from it and stuff like that. So it was pretty wild.
And did your dad ever come visit you?
To my knowledge, I could only recall him coming one time. That was it.
Did he say anything? Do you remember him saying anything when he did come, or giving you any words of encouragement or anything like that?
In the beginning, yeah, when he, obviously, you know, when he first gets there, I mean, to see, you know, your own hooked up to a bunch of stuff and, you know, sicker than a dog. I mean, yeah, you know, you're going to fight through this, you know, stuff like that. But after he, you know, it was just a normal day with him. Wasn't much, you know, just, you know, hanging around, honestly. But again, that one time that he was there, and again, he might have came maybe one more time after that. I can't remember, just because he didn't come often. And my other memories during the whole process just overcome that one memory. So there's not too much I can really dwell on that.
Right. So how did you end up dealing with that on a daily basis? I mean, were you afraid that you might die?
While I was there, yes. While I was there, yes. But then again, after a while, I started making the best of it. Like I said, they wanted me to stay in bed, and me being me, I mean, there was a point in time where I was hooking the radiation up to the mobile poles where you can move around and stuff like that. And I'm going to meet new friends, and they had a game room down there. I was going down there and hanging out in the game room and stuff like that. And if I was just in my room, just me and my mom, and seeing the worriness on her face, even though she did a really good job of trying not to show me fear and stuff like that, but I could still see it, so that then I would be very scared. But I tried to get out and mingle and just have fun while I was there and stuff like that. So, but when I got older, when I got out of there, I mean, sky's the limits. Like I said, they wanted me to stay in a bubble. They wanted to isolate me in the house. They wasn't doing that. There was no doing that to a 9-10-year-old that it's summertime and you're seeing your siblings outside playing, all your little friends, So I was outside playing with them.
It makes you appreciate the time you got a lot more. So
absolutely.
It makes you want to get out and do as much as you can.
Absolutely.
In case it does come back.
Oh, absolutely. Because like I said, I fear for my kids to have that. Like I said, when they get sick, again, that's where that phobia comes from, of having that. Is even when my kids get just, the croup or just downright sick, fevers and that are high fevers and stuff like that, I'm scared to death, because I'm like, I've been there.
Can it be genetic?
I'm not 100% sure. I've been told it could be. My kids have been tested for stuff like that, like when they've been sick or something like that, and they're like, okay, if you ever been to the hospital, they'll ask you if your family's got any history of this and that and the third, and so they've asked, hey, you got any history of this? Oh, my dad's had leukemia, so they're, let me test you, let me check for this and stuff like that. But for the most part, my kids are just 100% healthy, thank God.
So, being a 9 or 10-year-old that was dealing with a life-threatening disease like that, what would you say to some other children that might be in the hospital dealing with cancer, and they're scared and they don't know what's going on?
Don't lay down, fight, because if you do, then obviously it'll get the best of you. So get up, make the best of things, which some days are easier than others, but, like I said, go out there and be a kid, especially a kid. If you're a kid, be a kid. Don't forget to be a kid. Like I said, it is scary, but don't forget you got people that love you, people that's going to be there to support you, and you still got to be a kid.
And you're living proof that it's not a death sentence.
No, not at all. Not at all. Like I said, I've been in remission for 20-some years. I've been blessed. And honestly, I haven't even had any hiccups. Like, there was a little portion of time where I would have to do, like, it would start off like so many months appointments that I had to go back and get checkup. Even when I was doing chemo radiation, there'd be times where, I was allowed to come home, but I had to go back to do my radiation and stuff like that. But after a while, it started to be, a year. And then, I did it, I would say, probably till I was about probably 16, 17. And then, I just got tired. I got tired, even though I'm not saying this is a good. If you feel like you need to go get checked, But I wanted to live a normal life, and sometimes that took me back to that traumatized. So I just, I don't get checked as often anymore. Like I said, there is days where if I have an appointment here in town, I'll get my blood drawn to see where my blood counts are, where my white cells are, stuff like that. But for the most part, going down there, I haven't been there in years.
So you have a fiance, you have 3 kids, four kids, just bought a house.
Yeah.
You work for yourself.
I do. Yep.
And you beat cancer.
That's correct.
That sounds like a pretty successful life to me. I don't know if I could write a book that was more interesting than what you've been through and was able to do coming out of that. Why'd you decide to come here and share your story today?
I mean, like you said, if I had anything to be able to tell, people that's had to deal with cancer, I don't care if you're a kid or, a grown up or whatever, don't let it win the war. It might win that battle for a little bit, but you got to win that war, and, obviously for, the barbering thing, I'm not just a barber that does haircuts, I'm a shoulder to lean on. I'm an ear. I help give, motivation, confidence, I love those stories. I've heard so many things that I felt like some people would not mention to a regular person that, they felt comfortable telling me this. So I'm truly blessed on that. But like I said, the message to get out there is don't be scared to tell your story. There's people out there that do want to hear what you have to say.